Getting to the heart of the matter. Back to Guy, Ben, and Frank with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our next segment of Inside the News. Frank Vernuccio, Ben Brunson, myself, Guy Wehman. Glad to be with you. And all of our affiliates across the country, we never want to forget them. And you, our listeners, you mean so much to us, as does consumer confidence. And what's going on in the economy, Wall Street and all. Let's talk to our economic guru, Mr. Ben Brunson. Go.
Well, I started to tease this in the prior segment, but consumer confidence numbers have come out for February, preliminary numbers out of the University of Michigan, and they're down, and in some areas down sharply. And why would that be? We should be, of course, soaring right now. As you can see in states like Texas and Florida, the news is all good. These vaccine programs are working. We have over 50 million Americans that have now been vaccinated. The COVID case rates are coming down significantly. Hospitalizations have come down significantly. Everyone should be opening up. We should, in fact, in my opinion, I would stop all vaccinations for 2 days so that every teacher in America could be vaccinated. We're vaccinating over 1.5 million people a day. I don't know, there are 3 or 4 million teachers in this country. Vaccinate every single one who wants to be vaccinated. Open the schools tomorrow that are unopened in red and blue states primarily. And any teacher who doesn't want to report to work and won't be vaccinated can find another job. That's up to them. It's unbelievable that the vaccination analysis is so effective. Israel has done a lot of work. They've vaccinated a huge chunk of their population already. They're essentially an immune nation now. They've led the way with the Pfizer vaccine, and they've done a lot of follow-up work, and they find that it is every bit as effective as the clinical studies indicated in the United States in their experience. So the vaccines are done. This is a done deal. We should be soaring, and yet consumer confidence is plunging because of the policies of the Biden administration. The assault on the working class that I talked about earlier, it's unbelievable. And yet Joe Biden, who should care the most, who should want this economy open so he can take the credit for it, is still fighting this perpetual game of let's extend the lockdown. If I were Biden, I'd fire Fauci first and foremost, the guy who wants perpetual lockdown for the rest of his life. It's really unbelievable. You can see it in Florida. The state's wide open, doing great, and every state should be the same.
All right. He climbed on my soapbox right there, Frank, about teachers and everything. And I want to get back to that because I think all three of us totally agree that the teachers is where it's at. Jill Biden, who's being a teacher, it's like her voice doesn't matter to her husband. This is unbelievable. And yet Ben is spot on. Let's get these teachers back to work. Let's get these kids, not just in Florida, they're back in school in Florida, but around the country. I call ball games, whether it's basketball games, volleyball games, baseball games. These kids are on the field and they're participating in sports. They're not sick. They're going out there and competing. And Ben hit it right. They're healthy. And these coaches, they're healthy. Let's get these teachers vaccinated. I'm getting off my soapbox and letting you climb on, Frank.
Well, this is a contest of wills. The teachers' unions across the country, which have gained far more power than they ever should have in the first place, are basically exercising their muscle. What they're going to demand, who knows? But the fact of the matter is they are exercising their muscle, saying that we are in charge. It's not the elected representatives of the people. It's not those who administer school board systems. It is the teachers' union itself. And this, in a microcosm, is what happens in a socialist regime, where you have power sucked away from elected officials, from representatives of the people, to unions or to things that pretend to be unions. Remember, traditional unions do a couple of good things. They try to get better working conditions and better salaries for their members. But in a socialist concept, unions exercise semi-governmental power, in some cases pure governmental power. And this is what we are seeing happening with the teachers' unions. They are not talking about the benefit of their memberships. They're talking about control. And that's what happens when a socialist system takes over.
All right. The GOP committee spots, they're starting to vanish, and one by one, they're picking them off, Ben.
Well, surprise, surprise, Democrats play hardball when it comes to politics. They will do the things that the GOP typically refrained from doing in terms of playing really hard politics around these issues of committee spots and taking control of committees. And it's just a reality. There's a cure for this, and it's going to happen in the ballot box in less than 2 years, because I'll make the prediction right now. The GOP will win back the House in less than 2 years. And the GOP, when they get the House back, needs to get very busy and undoing all the damage being done by the Biden administration right now.
Ben, let's continue on that. And Frank, we're going to let you jump in, but closed primaries versus open primaries. This is probably the good segue point to put this in. Ben, go.
Well, 45 states have open primaries. It used to be very rare. It's become the norm. Only 5 states, I believe, are left with closed primaries. A closed primary means that if there's a Democratic primary, only registered Democrats can vote, and vice versa on the Republican primaries. That is the way it should be, obviously, because it's a party decision to decide who represents that party in the upcoming main election. And what has happened with open primaries is that conservatives in particular tend to get primaried out by Democrats crossing over and voting in Republican primaries to vote for the more liberal or the most liberal available Republican and put that person forward. So that's a real issue.
Okay, Frank, I'll let you weigh in on this.
Well, there's a little something called the First Amendment to the Constitution, which gives the right to assemble. And the right to assemble means an organization has the right to have its own bylaws and its own procedures. When you have an open primary, it is a violation of the First Amendment right to assemble for a political party, which of course is the most important portion of a right to assemble at all. The Democrats are no strangers and are not reluctant in any way, shape, or form to violate the First Amendment. And this is clearly what they're doing with open primaries. It's unfortunate that they haven't been challenged more successfully in the United States Supreme Court. I'm hoping that occurs sometime in the near future.
That's Frank Vernuccio. We've got to get out of here. I want to carry on this topic. This is Inside the News. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.